Hello and welcome back to Earth of Mystery. Today we will be going over the baffling disappearance case of Bobby Dunbar, a young boy that vanished during a vacation trip with his family in Louisiana. If you enjoy this type of story format videos, please like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our future content. Robert Clarence Dunbar, known as Bobby Dunbar, was an American boy born on May 23, 1908, in a place called Opelousas, Louisiana. His parents were Percy and Leslie Dunbar, and he had one brother, named Alonzo Dunbar. On August 23, 1912, the Dunbar family got ready to spend a nice day trip in the outdoors. They prepped all their stuff and headed to Swayze Lake in Louisiana. The day started relatively uneventful. The two boys were playing in the water, Percy and Leslie were having a good time setting up their tents and the picnic for all of them. The day was just going perfect. At some point, the parents went to go get the kids to get them ready to eat. However, the only one accounted for at the moment was Alonzo. Percy and Leslie were confused, since Bobby was right there with them seconds ago, and now he was just gone. They continued to look for Bobby throughout the lake and all its surroundings, but after some time of not finding any trace of him, they were forced to just call the authorities to help. A search party was quickly set up, and they soon tracked Bobby's scent to the lakeside. Given this, they caught and dissected several alligators. They threw dynamite in several areas of the lake, all in an effort to locate the body of the missing boy, if by any chance he was actually there. However, nothing was ever found in the lake itself. A day or so later, the search party came across Bobby's hat. It was discovered some distance away from the lake. When this discovery was made, people began to wonder if the case was more an abduction rather than just a disappearance. When the intensive search for Bobby's body failed, and given the shift in the direction of the investigation, the local and state police launched a nationwide manhunt for the missing 4-year-old boy. Bobby's father, Percy Dunbar, and Opelousas officials were convinced that Bobby had been kidnapped, so they offered a $6,000 reward, for which today that amount would equal around $160,000, for any information about the missing boy. Despite all these efforts, the case grew cold as the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months with no additional lead. Fast forward to April 21st, 1913, around 8 months later from when Bobby actually disappeared. Word of a young boy matching Bobby's description reached the authorities. He had been found in a town called Foxworth, Mississippi. The boy was traveling with a man called William Cantwell Walters. William was a laborer specializing in piano and organ tuning and repairs. When the police questioned William, he explained that the boy's name was Charles Bruce Anderson. He stated that Charles was the illegitimate son of his brother and a woman called Julia Anderson Floyd, a longtime maid of his family. According to William, Julia had granted custody of her son Charles for several days while William went to visit relatives in Mississippi. Despite his claims of innocence, William was then arrested on the grounds of kidnapping, which was considered a capital offense in Louisiana at the time, and he was then taken to Opelousas to stand trial. At the same time, the authorities alerted Percy and Leslie Dunbar, who quickly traveled to Mississippi to identify the boy. After this news, Percy and Leslie were ecstatic throughout their journey to Mississippi. At last, after 8 long months, Bobby would return home. The initial reunion between the boy and the Dunbars remains disputed to this day. One newspaper claimed it was joyful, and that the boy instantly shouted "Mother" upon seeing Leslie. Other accounts, however, claim that both Leslie and Percy Dunbar were hesitant to confirm that the boy was actually Bobby, and that upon gazing at him, Leslie said, "I don't know, I'm not sure." And Percy was said to have stated that the boy's eyes were smaller than Bobby's. In return, the boy reportedly started crying, seemingly afraid of Percy and Leslie. Additionally, when he met his younger brother Alonzo, it is reported that there was no reaction from the kids upon seeing each other. Despite all this, the police allowed the Dunbars to take the boy home with them. The following day, Leslie had the chance to bathe the boy. Leslie said that she had positively identified familiar-looking moles and scars on the boy's body that confirmed he was her son. With this, she claimed with absolute certainty again that this was her son Bobby. Having this final confirmation convinced the police to fully release the boy to the Dunbars. So, on April 25, 1913, the Dunbars took the boy back to their hometown of Opelousas, where there was a parade and a big party on the courthouse square from everyone in town to celebrate Bobby's return. A few days after the Dunbars had taken Bobby home, Julia Anderson herself traveled to Louisiana and showed up at the police station, backing up William's claims that the boy was actually her son. She said that she had allowed William to watch him for a few days while she went and looked for work. However, not being easy for her, the days turned into months, and she had not been able to find any work. Police called the Dunbar family back in order to have the boy be part of a lineup to determine if Julia could correctly identify him. For some strange reason, Julia was hesitant and struggled to identify the boy as being Charles. The following day, and after much insistence from Julia for a second chance of identifying the boy, she was permitted to undress him the same way Leslie Dunbar had done before. So, upon closer examination, Julia expressed certainty that he was her son Charles after identifying several birthmarks on his body. By this time, however, word had already spread that she had failed to recognize the boy the day before, and that the boy was living comfortably with the Dunbar family. So ultimately, her claims were deemed invalid, and the court were hesitant to bring the case back up. Having used all the resources she had at the moment, Julia, defeated, returned back to her home state. However, several months later, Julia returned to Louisiana determined on a second attempt to get William out of custody and reclaim the boy as her son. This time, she was accompanied by other residents of a town called Poplarville in Mississippi, who under oath declared to know William well and to have seen the boy in Poplarville before the date of Bobby's disappearance, which in turn ruled out any possibility that he was the Dunbar's son. Despite all the push from Julia and even from all these witnesses' accounts, the court ruled in favor of the Dunbars. So, from that moment on, the boy found in Mississippi was officially and legally recognized as Robert Clarence Dunbar, son of Percy and Leslie Dunbar, and lived the rest of his life as such. Following this, the trial of William Walters ensued, and after 2 weeks, William was found guilty of kidnapping Bobby Dunbar and received a life sentence. 2 years later, his attorney managed to appeal his conviction, giving William the right to a new trial, which then led to his release in 1915. During this time incarcerated, he wrote many letters reiterating his innocence. This article is a section of one of the letters he wrote during his incarceration. Despite all of this, Bobby's kidnapping case led to a terrible aftermath for William, which made him live in public disgrace for the rest of his life. Nonetheless, he maintained his innocence until the day of his death, as he succumbed to blood poisoning on April 7, 1945. By now, everything seemed to have settled down in both families. Julia returned to her hometown, where she settled down. She eventually got married and had 7 children. According to her descendants, she often talked about Charles and referred to the Dunbars as the shameless kidnappers that took her son. The only thing that really gave her peace was that he at least was received into a wealthy family where he would enjoy a better life, more than she could ever dreamed of offering him. On the other side, Bobby adjusted well to everyone and everything around him. He grew up and eventually got married to a lady called Marjorie Byers. Though he had been told of the events that had happened during his childhood, family members recounted that he always maintained that he knew who he was and that he was Bobby Dunbar. He eventually had 4 children of his own before his death in 1966. By all accounts, he had a very comfortable life. For some reason, the doubt and mystery of the veracity of Bobby Dunbar's identity continued to linger for several generations. Doubtful about her ancestry, Bobby Dunbar's granddaughter, Margaret Dunbar Cutright, started an intensive 4-year investigation to finally clear up the mystery surrounding her origin. She partnered up with Linda Travers, one of the 7 children of Julia Anderson. Together, and after some investigation, they finally went ahead and requested a DNA sample from Bob Dunbar Jr., son of Bobby Dunbar, for which he consented. The DNA from Bob Dunbar Jr. was then compared to the DNA from his cousin, the son of Bobby Dunbar's younger brother, Alonzo. The result was conclusive, meaning that they found no match between their DNA. So, beyond any doubt, the boy found in Mississippi in 1913 was not related to the Dunbar family at all. The boy the Dunbars had claimed as Bobby Dunbar all those years ago was in fact Charles Bruce Anderson, son of Julia Anderson. After this revelation, the Anderson family as well as William's family were thrilled as they felt this test vindicated their claims and fully exonerated William from the kidnapping claims. As for the real Bobby Dunbar, no one knows what really happened, whether he tragically drowned in 1912 during their family trip to Swayze Lake, or if he was kidnapped. Furthermore, and whichever the case, one additional mystery remains unsolved to this day, and many questions remain, such as: could Charles have been old enough to realize he landed in a completely different household? Was he aware that the people who took him were complete strangers to him? And did he ever have reservations about his identity? To this day, more than 100 years later, the mystery remains unsolved. If you are still here, many thanks for watching, and again, please like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our future content. As you can see, this channel is just starting out, so please feel free to comment below with any suggestions or recommendations that you may have. I hope to see you at the next one.